There's a language of longing, spoken in hushed tones between colliding souls and whispered across sheets of paper laden with legal jargon. That's where I found myself, caught in the tempestuous dance of wanting and propriety. My name is Charlotte, and I am an attorney at Winters & Sullivan's, one of the city's most prestigious law firms. It was within these walls of commanding respect and relentless pursuit of justice that my story of untamed desire began. Every day was a whirlwind, a blend of courtrooms and legal briefs, a world painted in shades of right and wrong, with lines I never dared to cross. That is, until Liam walked into my life, more like breezed through the halls of our firm, with his disarming smile, the kind that seemed to know my thoughts before I even did. He was a masterpiece of unruly brown hair, sharp intellect, and eyes that beckoned me into depths I feared to tread. From our first encounter, Liam was an enigma, straddling the line between courteous colleague and subtle flirtations whispered in between the statutes we debated. I told myself it was madness to contemplate more than a professional relationship with someone like him, a senior, respected, devastatingly attractive piece of forbidden territory. Yet, there was an energy, a current that pulled us into the same gravitational space. Coffee breaks lingered into personal conversations, and accidental touches burned through the fabric of my suits, igniting a fire that threatened the order I held dear. The days turned into a collection of stolen moments, each one sewn together with the thread of anticipation. Our exchanges, laden with double meanings, were our own secret, coded language. I found my thoughts drifting to him during the most inopportune times, crafting responses to arguments he had made hours before, my mind tracing over every detail of his expressions, the warmth of his gaze, the way it felt to be the focus of his attention. Then came the night that changed everything, a charity gala hosted by our firm. The air was a mix of cologne, expensive wine, and possibilities. I was a vision I'd curated for hours, a sleek black dress, a rebellion against my everyday armor of crisp professional attire. I was nerves and anticipation as I stepped into the grand ballroom, the murmur of esteemed guests blending into the luxurious ambiance. And there, amidst the glittering throng, I found him. Liam, embodying effortless elegance in his tuxedo, his silhouette a magnetic force that drew my gaze and held it captive. Our eyes locked, the connection sparking an electric charge that whispered promises in a language older than time. He approached, the crowd parting for him like a sea obeying its master's command. "Charlotte." His voice was the smooth melody of nighttime, deep and inviting. "You look stunning." The heat of a blush betrayed my composure. "Thank you, Liam. You're quite striking yourself." We engaged in a dance of words, playful banter that skimmed the surface of what lay unspoken between us. It was a game of advance and retreat, our conversation a live wire neither of us dared to grasp fully. As the evening progressed, our colleagues melted away, leaving the two of us in a universe crafted solely for the secrets we shared in hushed tones. The music enveloped us, an orchestration mirroring our heartbeats. Liam's hand found mine, his skin a hot brand, marking me as irrevocably his, if only for this stolen sliver of time. "Dance with me, Charlotte," he proposed, not a question, but an invocation. There, amidst the soft lights and the haunting strings of the violin, I surrendered. We moved together, our bodies conversing in the language that our lips dared not speak. His hand was firm on my waist, the other holding mine as if it were made of porcelain. My senses were alight, attuned to every nuance of his touch, every breath that brushed against my neck as we swayed. It wasn't just a dance, it was an admission, a capitulation to the craving that had been building, unbidden, since the day we met. I allowed my head to rest against his chest, the sound of his heartbeat a rhythm that I wanted to call home. "Liam," I began, the word a sigh on my lips. "Shh," he responded, a tender command that nestled in the hollow of my collarbone. Let me have this perfect, uncomplicated moment. But life as I knew it was a complex tapestry of choices and consequences. The song ended, and with it, our secluded serenity. He pulled back slightly, his gaze a storm of emotion that mirrored the chaos in my own soul. "What are we doing?" The vulnerability in my voice was foreign, even to me. Liam's thumb grazed my cheek, a touch so delicate it was almost painful. "I don't know," he confessed, his honesty a raw, beautiful thing. "But I desperately want to find out." It was madness. We were colleagues, professionals in a world that demanded decorum and discretion. But in his eyes, I saw the reflection of my own recklessness, an unquenchable thirst for something profound. "Let's be mad, then," I whispered, sealing our fate. Our laughter was a secret symphony as we made our way out, hands clasped like a lifeline. We were two souls charting a course into uncharted waters, with nothing but our desires as a compass. The night air was a cool caress against our flushed skin as we hastened to his car, the city lights twinkling accomplices in our grand escape. The drive was a blur, the world outside his car a distant, irrelevant land. There were only Liam and the space that hummed with anticipation, a silent plea for the extraordinary. We arrived at his place, a chic apartment that echoed his personality, sophisticated lines and art that spoke of restless, searching hearts. No words were necessary as he took my hand, leading me through the living room imbued with shadows and moonlight. His kiss was the point of no return, a plunge into euphoria that tasted of wine and wild decisions. I responded with an urgency that surprised us both, my hands exploring the landscape of his back, feeling the strength and heat that surged beneath my fingers. "Liam," I breathed against his lips, a prayer and a promise entwined in a single utterance. "Charlotte," he murmured, each syllable a testament to the hunger that had simmered between us, now unleashed in a torrent of sensation. We found our way to his bedroom, a sanctuary where silk met skin, and whispered confessions were shared in the sanctity of darkness. Each touch was a discovery, a narrative of longing penned with fingers and lips. We explored with the veracity of starved pilgrims, worshiping at the altar of newfound passion. As dawn painted the sky in hues of awakening, I lay entwined with Liam, the man who'd breached my defenses and laid claim to the parts of me I'd never dared to reveal. In the soft morning light, I studied his features, memorizing the lines and contours as if I could etch them into my very soul. This was dangerous, a risk that defied reason. The morning sun dared to intrude, its rays a harsh contrast to the tender darkness where secrets lay bare between tangled sheets. I stirred, feeling the weight of Liam's arm around me, a protective barrier against the dawn's reality. I savored the remnants of his scent, a heady mix of musk and the faint cologne that marked every memory of our stolen night. "Liam," I whispered, testing the word, wondering if it held the power to bring back the man I surrendered to in the moon's shadow. His eyes fluttered open, heavy with sleep and soft, with a vulnerability that tugged at my heartstrings. "Charlotte," he breathed, as if my name were a sacred verse he'd just learned. The air around us was charged with questions we weren't ready to face. The firm, our careers, the unspoken rules we shattered with each touch, they loomed just beyond the sanctuary of his bedroom. Yet, in that sliver of silence, Liam's fingertips traced idle patterns along my spine, writing unspoken promises on my skin, choosing the language of touch to communicate what words could not capture. Every stroke echoed a shared craving that defied the chaos of our minds. The world outside began to impose its rhythm on us, a reminder of lives waiting, of personas to reclaim. Reluctantly, we untangled ourselves, the chill of absence hitting us as soon as the space between grew. In the simple act of dressing, of watching Liam pull on the armor of his everyday self, I felt a profound loss, a yearning for the raw truth we'd shared in naked whispers. "We can't just," I started, the words trailing off, betraying me. My heart knew what my head feared to acknowledge. We were a storm of emotion that threatened the very foundations we had worked so hard to build. Liam approached, his hands capturing my face, forcing me to meet the storm in his eyes. "I know," he admitted, the gravity in his voice a tether I desperately needed. "But Charlotte, I can't stand the thought of what if." "Can you? Could I?" The thought of slipping back into the monotony of before, of days without the undercurrent of excitement, of nights devoid of the heat we generated. It was unbearable. "No," I confessed, my resolve strengthening. "I can't." A smile, small and secret, passed between us. It was madness. It was a fantasy. But it was ours. The days at the firm was a study in contradiction. We were attorneys, advocates of justice, trained to argue truths. Yet there we were, weaving a tapestry of lies. Side glances loaded with unspent passion, brief touches charged with night's memories. Our longing was a palpable entity, fed by the very force that sought to suppress it. But reality has a cruel way of intruding upon the enchanted. Rumors, like silent serpents, began slithering through the office halls, whispers behind raised hands, speculative stares. I felt them all, each one a pinprick threatening the fragile bubble we inhabited. A confrontation was inevitable. It arrived in the form of a summons to Mr. Winter's expansive, oak-adorned office, the power seat of our esteemed firm. "Charlotte?" Mr. Winters addressed me, his tone an omen. "This firm respects the personal lives of its associates. However, it's come to my attention that your involvement with Mr. Hall might be affecting your judgment on your cases." There it was, the unspeakable acknowledged, laid bare under the fluorescent lights of scrutiny. I was a professional, I reminded myself. This personal entanglement wouldn't be my undoing. I wouldn't allow it. "Sir, I assure you, my personal life does not intersect with my professional responsibilities," I stated, the rehearsed lines tasting foreign on my tongue. He studied me, the elder statesman, wise in the ways of the world, perhaps understanding more than I wished him to. "See that it doesn't, Ms. Moore. Winters & Sullivans cannot afford indiscretions." Indiscretions? The word echoed, a harsh judge in a courtroom of moral ambiguity. The meeting ended, but the seed of trepidation was planted. Liam and I, we were fire, we were intoxication. But were we strong enough to stand against the onslaught of the real world? I got my answer that evening. Liam, ever my rock, pulled me into his office, a safe harbor in the tempest that our lives had become. His kiss was fierce, a claim that anchored me. "They're talking," I murmured against his lips, a confession that needed no further explanation. "Let them," he countered defiantly, his hands firm on my waist. "I don't care, Charlotte. I refuse to deny this. Us." It was a declaration of war, of intent. With it, Liam banished the shadows of doubt. We were two souls, tried and tested in the fires of law, of life. We wouldn't be the casualties of fear. That night, we embarked on a new chapter in the privacy of my apartment, far from prying eyes. Every touch was rebellion, every kiss a pledge. We explored each other with the urgency of the condemned, pushing boundaries, erasing fears. The world beyond my bedroom faded into insignificance as Liam guided me to the peaks of exquisite oblivion, claiming every sigh, worshiping every cry that escaped my lips. We moved together, a dance as old as time, each peak cresting higher than the last, until we shattered, fragments of pleasure and pain, indistinguishable in the dark. Lying in the aftermath, Liam's fingers laced through mine, a silent vow formed between heartbeats. We were tempest-tossed, sailing into uncharted waters with no compass but our desire. Our journey was a risk, but in the stillness, with the echoes of our passion hanging in the air, I knew it was a risk I was willing to take. For in the labyrinth of the forbidden, the truest paths are often the ones we fear to tread. The days unfolded like origami, each crease a revelation, a new facet of our entwined lives that we dared to explore, even as we danced on the knife's edge between prudence and passion. The firm, with its marble floors and glass walls, was no longer just a battleground for justice, but a minefield of stolen glances, of touches hidden from view but felt deep in the marrow of our bones. Yet beneath the thrill, the danger loomed, growing with every risk we took. It was a silent specter at every meeting, a third shadow cast in the glow of my desk lamp when working late hours. We were playing with a fire that threatened to consume not just our hearts, but the very lives we had built. That precarious balance quivered the day our secret slipped through the cracks. A misplaced hand on my back during a firm gathering, lingering a second too long, enough for the hungry eyes of gossip to latch on. The murmurs began, soft but insistent, threads pulling at the fabric of our discretion. Our cocoon wasn't a fortress, it was glass, and the first crack had appeared, threatening to spiderweb and shatter our haven. We couldn't ignore it, the atmospheric pressure of impending tempests. It was there, in the tightness of Liam's jaw when he looked over at me, the way his fingers briefly tightened on his pen. My fortress, my partner in this sweet madness, was besieged by the same insecurities rattling my heart. It came to a head in his office, the scene of our many indiscretions. where the world outside ceased to exist, and there was only Liam and Charlotte. "They know," I whispered, voicing our collective dread. It was a chasm opening at our feet, and we were teetering on the edge. Liam's response was to pull me to him, his arms a steel band of certainty in a world that was quaking. "Let them," he said, but this time the defiance was tinged with desperation. "What if—" I couldn't finish, but his finger on my lips silenced the chaos in my mind. "No what ifs, Charlotte. We knew it wasn't going to be easy." His gaze ensnared mine, two souls laid bare with a single look. "I don't regret a thing, do you?" Did I? Regret the firestorm, the heady descent into pure feeling, the nights where the world was just his heartbeat and mine? Never, I breathed, and it was like a pact renewed, soldering the fractures, making us whole and unyielding. We became a tempest, our kisses deep and all-consuming, forging us anew in the eye of the storm. His hands roamed over me, not just a lover's caress but a proclamation, staking a claim against the oncoming siege. "Liam," I gasped as he found the neckline of my blouse, his touch searing a path down, igniting a hunger that had nothing to do with propriety and everything with primal need. "Mine," he growled against the hollow of my neck, the possessiveness binding me closer. In that office, where decisions that affected lives were made, we chose us. The desk became our altar, each breathless plea a hymn, every shiver a testament to the rightness of this collision. We moved together, a desperate rhythm, chasing down a promise that was whispered in the throes of our first embrace. Our climax was a mutual surrender, powerful and rocking us to the core. It was a wordless shout, emerging that was more than just physical, as if we melded into one force that no rumor could dismantle, no sidelong glance could weaken. We remained locked together, chests heaving, the thunderous beat of our hearts a harmonious duel against the silence. The world came back into focus, but it was altered, recreated in the image of our recklessness and resolve. "We'll face this together," Liam's voice was a low thrum, harmonizing with the erratic drumbeats of my heart. "I won't give up on us, Charlotte. Not now, not ever." And I knew, as my fingers traced the planes and contours of the man who'd become my universe, that we were embarking on the greatest case of our lives, defending something fragile and untested, yet as monumental as the most ancient truths. Our story didn't end there, in the aftermath of whispered promises and fervent embraces. It continued, through whispered corridors and into the courtrooms where we fought with the same passion we shared, in shadowed corners. There were battles, some won, others lost, but never the war. Because every night, no matter the scars we'd gather, we'd seek the solace of each other, skin to skin, soul to soul. The whispers didn't vanish. Instead, they morphed into the background noise of a life more vibrant and authentic than any we dared to dream. We became a testament to the forbidden, a tribute to the yearning that starts in a single, reckless heartbeat. We were Liam and Charlotte, separate yet inseparable, a paradox as we wrote our own laws, dictated by the heart's pounding gavel. In the courtroom of desire, we both emerged victoriously sentenced, with no appeal desired for a lifetime.